My favorite videos that I make on this channel are undeniably the nostalgic ones where I just talk about the past in a good way. I reminisce, the videos are usually pretty relatable. They're a lot of fun. And today we're talking about the past again, but not in a good way. It can't always be, good, fun stories, sunshine, rainbows. No, we need some bad shit here and there. So today I'm gonna be telling y'all some of my most embarrassing stories from middle school that mostly revolve around me trying to fit in with the cool and popular kids. So hopefully y'all don't relate to this video, because why would you want to relate to a video like this? But if you do, let me know how it was for you. So first off, I'm gonna talk about the first thing that I remember doing to try to fit in, and I was buying fake chains. Well, I only bought one because that's what the cool kids had on, right? They had their badass fat gold chains. They would have their uniform, shirt untucked, sagging, and then the chain on top of that. So of course I wanted a chain. So I went to Ross, and for $5 I got myself a cheap chain. It was a big ass chain. It was a comically large chain. It was huge, and of course I felt badass. The next day when I wore it to school, I felt like a completely new person. I'm gonna be like, these cool kids are gonna come up to me, they're gonna be like, that's a badass chain. And I felt good, but when I got to school, nobody batted an eye. No one gave a flying, farting shit about my new chain. So I just took it off. Never wore it again. Waste of $5. Oh, but when it comes to jewelry, I can't say that word. Jewelry. When it comes to expensive accessories, I didn't just stop at chains, because the cool kids would also have gold watches. So I'm like, I have to get me one as well. Yet again, I went to Ross. I bought myself a fake one, a really cheap one for like $10. Put it on the next day, expecting some compliments, just like I did with the chain. But it was the same exact shit. Nobody batted an eye. And I remember I would always wear hoodies all the time because I was pretty insecure about how skinny I was. So I made sure that I always put up the sleeve just enough so you could see the chain. And I remember at first I would put it over the sleeve. I would put the watch over the sleeve, and that looked really dumb. Like even my dumb middle school self could say, wow, this looks fucking stupid. Take it off. So I just pulled up the sleeve a little bit. And like I said, nobody batted an eye. But I remember in this one class that I had, there was this pretty girl that I liked. So I made sure that every time I walked past her or she walked past me, I made sure I pulled my sleeve a little extra so she could really see the watch, so she could really see what I'm wearing. And she never batted an eye. But I didn't wear the watch for too long. After a week, I took it off, and that was that. In the beginning of middle school, I had only a DS, my DSi, and everybody was starting to get phones already. I'm like, what the fuck? But eventually I did get an iPod Touch, and of course, you know what the cool shit was if you had a phone. Instagram, of course. But yeah, on Instagram I didn't do much because none of the cool kids would follow me back. But one thing I did do was put rappers as my profile pictures. And speaking of rappers, let's segue into the next thing that I did to try to fit in, and that was listening to rap music. Because before then, I didn't really listen to any type of music, like whatever was on the radio, I listened to it. But now, the cool kids, they listen to rap music, mostly only exclusively trap music, right? Like Future, Young Thug, Kodak Black, all that. So naturally, I started listening to rap music, and like I said earlier, I only had a DSi, so I would download music into my DSi, rap music, and just listen to it on the DSi. I specifically have this memory of me going to like a family party. It was like at a park, and I remember I was waiting for my cousins to get here, so I just got on one of the swings. I pulled out my DSi, pulled out some headphones, and then I would just be swinging back and forth. I looked peaceful, right? I was just sitting there, but I was listening to like 21 Savage rap about committing crimes or some shit. And speaking of headphones, the cool headphones to have back in the day were Beats, and oh my god, I wanted some Beats really bad. I did end up getting some Beats because my uncle, he used to have Beats, and then he got a new pair, and then he just gave the old pair to me. It was all beat up, but man, I felt cool with those Beats. And also, while we're on the topic of rap music, I'ma just say that nowadays I do like rap music, like not trap music necessarily. There's a couple trap artists that I like, but for the most part, trying to fit in actually got me into rap, because I genuinely like some rap artists. So yeah, that was a good thing. But next thing I'm gonna talk about is there was this thing that the popular kids did where they got their speaker, they connected it to their phone, and then played some badass music out loud in the hallways. And of course, you know where this is going. I bought myself a speaker, and oh, and by the way, I forgot to say this. I was spending my birthday money on this shit. Instead of trying to save up money for like the next game for my console or whatever, instead I was spending it on this dumb shit like chains, gold watches, and speakers. But anyway, I bought myself a speaker. I played Future out loud in the hallways, and yet again, nobody batted an eye. But I did catch the attention of one of the popular kids at my school. He came up to me and asked me if I wanted to trade speakers with him, and I could already tell his speaker was worse than mine. But he was trying to convince me. He's like, yo, this speaker, it's badass, it sounds super loud, it has lights on it, you can change the color. But like, it was a pretty shitty speaker, and mine was actually pretty good. I remember I ordered it from Amazon, and he was trying to trade, and I said no. But then he's like, can you at least let me borrow it for a day? And I'm like, a cool kid is asking me to let him borrow my speaker? Of course I'm gonna say yes. So not surprisingly, he didn't give it back to me the next day, but surprisingly, he gave it back to me the next week. I thought he was just gonna take off with it, but he gave it back. And then one day, one amazing day. At the time, I didn't think it was an amazing day. I thought it was a tragedy, but looking back at it, that was like the best thing that could have happened to me. So what happened was, in gym class, in the beginning of gym class, I decided to blast some Young Thug before the coach came in. But the coach came in a little earlier than usual today. He usually took a while. He was just out in the hallways, right? But today he came in earlier, and then he caught me playing the music out loud. So he confiscated the speaker, and he didn't give it back to me until the last day of school. And this was early on in the school year. This was like October, November. So for the whole year he took it away, and I was of course furious at the time because I had just dropped like $15 on that shit. But it was a saving in disguise. Jordans, that's what the cool kids were wearing. If you weren't wearing Jordans, they were saying, what are those? That bullshit. So I'm like, I have to get me some Jordans, so the cool kids will point out how badass my Jordans were, because I had like some like Converse or some shit. So I'm like, I have to get my drip up. And I remember I bought some Jordans from Ross. It was like some ones that were all white. And y'all don't know how, y'all cannot possibly fathom how badass I felt when I first got my hands on those Jordans. And for this one, I actually got some compliments, not from the cool kids, but like from some friends and other classmates. So the Jordans were kind of a dub. And for the rest of like middle school and high school, I genuinely liked Jordans. I thought they were pretty cool. But nowadays I'm just like, I got a black pair and I got a white pair, so that goes with anything. I'm not really into them as much anymore. But before I got that first pair, I was desperate to get my hands on a pair of Jordans. But my greed didn't end at just that first pair, because of course I wanted more, because there were some of the cool kids, they would come in with like a new pair every day, every week or some shit. So I'm like, I can't just be wearing this one freaking pair, I need more. So I remember that I would scroll through OfferUp non-stop, just trying to find some used Jordans for a really cheap price. And I remember my parents weren't really cool with me buying used shoes, because they're like, what if you get foot fungus or some shit from another person's shoe? But I'm like, what are the chances of happening, right? And one day I did find some 4s for like $35, and like I sneaked out of the house. I just said I was gonna go ride my bike, but in reality I went to meet up with that person, bought the shoes, and they fucking smelled like weed, so I couldn't wear them. I just threw them away. I tried my best to get the smell away. I cleaned them with every possible substance out there, and I couldn't get the stench away. So I didn't throw them away. I gave them to one of my cousins. And then one day I just found them in the back of his dad's truck, just all beat up, and it was only one pair. So that was the end of that. So yeah, pretty embarrassing shit that I did in order to try to fit in and be with the cool kids. But it's kind of funny to look back on it and just laugh at my old self. But I got one bonus story that doesn't necessarily have to do with me trying to fit in. But there was this girl that I had a crush on, and I had her for one class. Keep in mind, one class. And she knew that I liked her, but she did not like me back at all. In fact, she wasn't a big fan of me. She hated me. She hated my guts. And I remember one day I added her on on Kick, and then she was telling me that I need to stop staring at her during the class that we had, because she said if I kept staring at her, she was gonna tell the counselor to switch her schedule just so, I wouldn't be in her class. And keep in mind, this was like in the middle of the year. You can't be out here changing your schedule unless there's like a serious problem in one of your classes. That you can only change them in like the first 2 weeks. But the thing is, in that class, I couldn't possibly stare at her because I was sitting literally across the room from her. I specifically remember that class because I would always play, because I was sitting in the corner and I would always play Clash Royale during that class. So I never stared at her. I was too busy grinding and climbing up the ladder in Clash Royale. So she was making false accusations. Alright. And she didn't end up telling the counselor, luckily, because it would have been pretty awkward, because I'm pretty sure they would have got like parents involved and shit. But nothing happened, thank goodness. But that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know if y'all have some embarrassing stories from middle school or whatever, any grade level of school. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this. See y'all next time and take care.